Hello dear hearts. May this find you all sincerely well on this full moon in Aquarius to peak at 8:30 p.m. Paris, France time on the 19th of August 2024. The energy of this full moon in Aquarius comes right after a double full moon in Capricorn, providing us with two Capricorn full moons that were previous to this full moon, and the teachings of that have been very strong. So it's important to take a moment to reflect on what the double Capricorn full moon did for us, how it influenced our ambitions, our worldly pursuits, our relationship to the materialistic plane, and also the questions that were raised within that entire month period in between those two full moons in Capricorn, how that taught us about all that we're aiming for, again in a very materialistic way, and where that is taking us now as we embrace a very altruistic, awakening, philanthropic, inventive, far-seeing, visionary full moon in Aquarius, which really is about the collective consciousness, all beings, communities, people of like-minded attitudes, the world as a whole, the future as well as a whole, our contribution to the future, and authenticity, a key word that often comes up with the energy of Aquarian moons. Now, this full moon does, of course, work with Lilith in Libra, in a complementary way. There are astrologers out there that are talking about the Lilithian theme and are saying that she's in Virgo, but that's actually not correct, because as I have mentioned on several accounts, there are four pillars with the Lilithian theme, and one needs to work with all of these. And the way the movement of the approximate 9-month cycles of the black moon Lilith works is in the mean and the true position, and her mean position is definitely in Libra, and will be at 5 degrees Libra on this full moon in Aquarius. Okay, so yeah, it's a complementary access if we're looking at the trines that can take place with the Jupiterian energy, the Mars and Jupiter conjunction basically there, this moon and the black Lilith. There's a fighter in us rising, and such fighters rising in a way that is, of course, stimulated by decisiveness, law, fairness, putting things in order. And for those of you who have subscribed to receive my detailed talks on Lilith in Libra and her transit through Libra, you will hear more about this. But Lilith in Libra really does put order, law and order, in quite an urgent place, where if things have not been settled, well, they're going to have to get settled based on what Lilith and Libra can do, especially if there's been harm to authenticity, to the joy in purity, to, when we talk about purity here, we're talking about kindness of the being and the intentional purity that can be abused and taken advantage of. And Lilith does protect very much so those parts of one's being, and is very clear on where rage has been accumulated within the collective and also personal psyche, and how that needs to be addressed in fairness, in ways that are fair. So the support of Jupiter in conjunction to Mars with the Gemini fire here, stimulated by the full moon, which is a moon in very close proximity to the Earth right now. So what this does is it illuminates, it shows where action is needed, okay? And the fighter in us will be rising. And when I talk about fighting, I'm referring to what needs to be heard by those who have in many ways overstepped or interfered with pure intention, sincere conduct. All of us that generally are not taking the nasty route in dealing with affairs, but are trying to maintain a place of integrity and do things sincerely for the world and for others, and of course for ourselves. And those of us that really have maintained some integrity there, Lilith in Libra with these aspects, this trine, supporting her. It's like saying, okay, you've done your best, but now let me show you what I can do and how I can finalize and deal with issues for you. For people that have, in circumstances on a worldwide and also personal level, have crossed the line, basically, have tipped the scales in an unjust way, have not understood and acknowledged divine law and order, because divine law and order is not ordinary law and order, and it always holds the final balancing act. Just like when we are leaving this physical material plane, as the ancient Egyptians would believe ever so clearly, is our hearts would be weighed by the divine scales next to a feather. And when this takes place, it can really see the quality of one's authenticity, of one's heart, of one's intentional plane, of one's soul in other languages and belief systems, but above all, the heart being our centerpiece and our being, and it doesn't lie, you see. So Lilith and Libra will be definitely bringing that out to the surface. The union of Uranus and fixed star Algol, Medusa to many, continues. It was very much there in the closest point when the failed assassination attempt of Donald Trump took place. And for that to happen, it's because Medusa, Algol, was actually in support of him not being assassinated. And as difficult as that may be for a whole bunch of people on this world to agree to or accept, it's the truth. Because generally, what Algol Medusa does, if you are meant to depart, you will, under such intense fixed star energies. If you are meant to depart, you will. If you don't, then you are under her protection for some reason. And if Medusa is protecting the potential departure of people like Trump, this then implies that there must be some reason beyond our basic understanding why that's taking place. So to put it very simply, the intensity, of such placements, Uranus there, right, activating Taurus with the fixed star Algol, close enough to the Pleiades, close enough we can say, and this continuing on for a while, what it does is it says that we are having to somehow be ready for the shake-ups that need to happen so that we're more closer to a need for something true and sincere in our lives versus the opposite to what Uranian energy supports. And the opposite is deception. So, Uranian energy, it really wants us to come out of the limitations of deception, and the shake-ups that will take place will happen to support this sudden release of anything that is holding us back from really truly aligning ourselves. And how this fits into this particular full moon in Aquarius is because naturally, Uranus rules Aquarius, and Aquarian energy is very Uranian. So we'll be feeling the electric-like energy dosage that is coming from planetary bodies that stimulate our being, stimulate our entire frequency, especially the nervous system. We'll be feeling that. And that's why it's good to do some heart meditation where you're connecting with the world from the heart, and really, sending a lot of love, a lot of tenderness to this whole world, including yourself, so you can somehow ground and also centralize the nervous system to where it really corresponds to. And once again, it really is the heart. The heart is so much more linked to the nervous system than it may seem. Of course, we have our brain and the whole body, but the heart plays a big role. So grounding, heart-oriented meditative practices will be exceptionally helpful on this full moon that is taking place. Now, I was trying to say, from the 18th of August, the 19th of August, all the way until the 20th of August, those 3 days encapsulate the process of this full moon in Aquarius, and they serve us with the energies of what the teaching of this full moon does. Okay, so we may not be able to tune in right at the moment of the peak of the evening, as I was mentioning, of the 20:25-ish p.m. Paris, France time on the 19th of August 2024. Even if we can't tune in right at the peak, we have time to on the 18th, we have time to any time on the 19th, and we have time to any time on the 20th, So this is helpful. Of course, Leo season persists, the last days of Leo season, and Leo season is always a very direct encounter with your ego identity. The moon being in opposition to the sun, of course, on this full moon, gives that extra illumination to the selves and our relationship to I, to self, and how that contributes to the whole. I think a lot of consciousness around how we look, how we feel deeply, and also how we present ourselves is also part of the general feeling of what's happening around this full moon, because the axis of Aquarius Leo is very much that. You have got to address your relationship with yourself, and is that a healthy relationship? Are you aware of how you relate and take care of the self, and therefore how that then contributes to the whole, and how much time and energy you put into the right balancing act of being of service to more than just the self, through having a healthy relationship with the ego identity, of course. So, it's definitely high voltage right now. And it will be that way until the end of the year. I don't see us having many breaks. I think the last energetic astrological break was early August, and I know a lot of us just decided to unwind and not get to engage with reality, because we were definitely having the opportunity on an astrological level to breathe. However, it is going to be quite active and influential in a way that's out of our general ability to manage from now until the end of the year, because of the eclipse season energy. We're in eclipse season, everyone, with eclipses right around the corner in September and October 2024, and eclipse energy starts to magnetize our entire realm, way before it actually takes place. So easily we could say 6 weeks before, a couple months before, we're already approaching that vortex. But then once you pass the 4 weeks towards, the eclipse, the first eclipse of the two that will take place this end of year, you're already going to have to surrender, because that axis of Aries, Libra, Libra Aries with this eclipse energy, and where the eclipses will actually be this end of year as well, which is also very specific to the message, of course. The lunar nodes being Aries, Libra, Libra, Aries, in their own way, affecting the ecliptic, and having, a strong now union with the Black Moon Lilith in Libra. And that's all about the past. Imagine our directional nodes. Directional node being Aries, heading towards Aries, departing from Libra, having Lilith there with the South node. What that means is that not only so many wrongs that have not been dealt with in the past, where law and order has not been put to its correct result, will get dug up and dealt with, right? Not only will that happen, but there will also be so many cases, if we look at it from like a more technical term, when you look at forensics and detective officers and things like that, you're talking about cold cases, or you're talking about cases in general that have been put in the cupboard and locked away that haven't been resolved. That's one element that you can add into this type of a Lilithian emphasis on the South Node. But the other thing is just where there has been law enforced results that were unjust, that were seen to be fair, but then get dug up in this 9-month transit of Lilith in Libra. So think of it as a necessary reevaluation, to put it in simple words, of where things may have seemingly been dealt with in the correct way, but in reality, divine order wasn't the backbone of the intention, and circumstances will then become, again, this tricky Lilithian mediator who just brings things back up necessarily, of course, always necessarily. And on a worldwide level, we're going to see this in an extreme way, and it will continue on when we look at the Lilith in Scorpio transit, which will be very heightened transit, because she's really exalted there in Scorpio. But now, as this full moon tickles away at Lilith in Libra and does what it's doing with Jupiter and Mars there in Gemini, it's just pushing for the fighter in us to defend our rights, be more concerned about the world, be more concerned about our opinions and how that impacts the whole. What we say and do naturally will have some kind of a result. So why are we letting things slide that aren't fair, that aren't sincere, that aren't serving the purity of this world, that aren't giving opportunities for the best in this world to be preserved and protected, versus just letting all sorts of strange influences do what they want with this earth? There is so much happening, and simultaneously we're very hopeless as well. In a subconscious way, I think we just think that we're hopeless, and we don't, in a subconscious way, and we don't grab the reins of this precious life we have and work with it the best way we can. The full moon in Aquarius, it reminds us of everyone who is lesser than we are, underprivileged, has less than we do. It reminds us of the animals. It reminds us of nature. It reminds us of all the microcosms and all of the infinite realms that we can't see or begin to understand through our own eyes, but instead are living and functioning, even within our body, even deep within our physical, being, like everything that's taking place in our intestines and, all that's fighting to keep us alive. hiding way underneath our skin. You know, there's so much happening, right? And we need to know that we are an active contributor to all that. We are not just kind of lazy, let's not really do much kind of category of existence. You know, considering we're at the top of the food chain, so to speak, being a human being and being challenged by artificial intelligence, how that will impact being a human being, and being challenged by also the various changes taking place around what it means to be a human being in our current I guess self, right, that we have to have a healthy relationship with. There is infinite capacity there to be connected to and to support and serve the greater good, the highest good, and to care about all these things that just because we can't see or don't have a direct connection to, it doesn't mean they don't have value or importance to the entire scheme, the entire sphere of things. And this is why Aquarian energy, full moon energy, really does want us to remember the value of good wishes, prayer, intentions, to remember the value of that purity, that childlike spontaneity, that childlike heartiness that is aloof, that is inquisitive, curious, you know, that knows how to relate and keeps things very authentic, very sincere. When we're working with the exalted energy of the Aquarian moon placement, this is what we can expect. We can expect genius energy. We can expect genius results. We can expect genius, you know, wholesome completions, whilst we also are stumbling into a sincerity that it just is what it is, and you'll find that thanks to Lilith, thanks to Jupiter and Mars, okay? Yes, there are a lot of squares on this full moon. There are also tendencies going on, continuing to amplify the way that we're relating just to our thoughts, and also the detail that's needed to execute ideas, plans. And, you know, Mercury in retrograde will continue to be that, needed stop sign. And personally, he's definitely done that with me during his retrograde, this current retrograde. And when Mercury does that, when Mercury stands up in front of you and says, stop, you cannot continue, you have to wait, it's quite it's quite difficult to process. But, you know, the mercurial energy, when it's in its right position, like right now, again, making a bit of a not so fun aspect to the moon. From what I understand, it's in its opposing point, and it's quite firm in the way that it's opposing, right? The moon to Mercury in retrograde. But opposition, it's challenging what we want versus what's practical, right? And it's also challenging the directional pull, because there's just more than one avenue, and it's very difficult to make any decisions with Mercury in retrograde in this kind of opposition to such a full moon like the one in Aquarius. And, you know, this Mercury has done a lot with Virgo as well. So the Leo Virgo energy of this Mercury retrograde, the way it impacts this full moon, it continues to say, well, you just got to wait it out. You're not going to be able to choose much just yet. And it isn't easy, because as you are kind of forced into facing the self through the wishes and aspirations that you have in you, in your being, designed for a greater good, for more than just your own life, or what you are as a singular versus the collective, and how you impact that, it's very difficult, because there's a drive, there's a push with Jupiter and Mars in conjunction, but then there's also a big stop sign saying, yes, gather the energy, let it develop further in you, let it become more of your entire makeup, instead of being just something you need to act on, and then there goes that. Instead, cultivate it, integrate the energy, the dosage of energy. And that's why it's so sincere, this full moon in Aquarius, because you can become very energized and stabilize that energy and not waste it. You have the planetary support to do that. The water will not spill, the water bearer will not let that water drop. She will hold it dearly. She will carry it dearly in offering pose to this world for its peace. You understand? So wholeheartedly, I wish you all an incredibly moving, sincerely caring and humbling full moon in Aquarius, and look forward to hear from all of you. Thank you so much. May all be auspicious. Bye-bye.